all the regulatory guidelines from our regulator, NCC. And you can see here we had all our regulators and even some auditing companies reviewing or viewing the whole process. There is no really criteria. I just go into the draw dial *9100 hash or use my MTN app and enter the promo.
Winners will receive a direct call from MTN's official number 300, and all prize payments will be made through their Momo PSB account.
And so as we speak, members of the Monetary Policy Committee are meeting. The meeting begins today with the Central Bank of Nigeria to take the next rate decision for the country. And we'll try to get into their minds and find out perhaps what kind of conversation they're having and what we could expect as the decision tomorrow. And we're doing that this morning with the Managing Director of Optimum Global Financial Services, Anosi Kimalu, right here in the studio. Anosi, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Great. So we've seen 3 consecutive drops in Nigeria's inflation. Do you see that as enough grounds for a rate cut tomorrow?
So even though we've seen some easing in terms of headline inflation, core inflation has still remained sticky, and I think month on month in June we still saw food inflation sort of have an uptick. So while it's positive, I think things are still a little bit more shaky, and the MPC may want to, stay on the side of caution, rather than rush to begin to make a cut now.
So you think a cut would be a rush, but the manufacturers would not agree with that?
Yes, I mean, everybody wants to see rates come down, for businesses.
Even President Trump.
So that they can, it could ease borrowing costs. But in order for the MPC to enable things to balance a little bit more, they may want to be cautious, because bringing rates down may also cause investor sentiment to wane, and that could make a run on the Naira and cause instability in terms of the currency. So because of the currency mandate as well, the Monetary Policy Committee may want to be cautious.
We heard the governor of the central bank talking about the impact of FAC.
Yes.
And inflation.
Yeah.
So it does seem, even because we see the tightening is really much coming from the CBN, and yet we see currency in circulation, currency outside the bank, all of that. Perhaps, can we say we have now traced it to FAC?
Yeah. So, I mean, FAC also plays a role in terms of creating or elevating liquidity within the system. So, that too is another factor. Because of the devaluation, so FAC disbursements generally have to have been higher. They would definitely take that into consideration as well. And
but what can they do about that?
So that's the whole point of keeping interest rates high, right? So as to kind of drain that liquidity out of the system.
But the real sector is suffering it, and the politicians are still having it.
Unfortunately, when it comes to economic decisions, things sometimes may not be as balanced as we would like it to be.
So, I mean, we just keep holding to a tight stance and squeeze out the growth that we could have had. I guess there should be a way to find a balance.
Yeah, so that balance is exactly what we, the central bank has to go through every time. It's a very delicate act. And I would say that even though MPC or MPR rates have been at 27.5, we have actually seen the CBN sort of reduce stop rates on things like treasury bills and OMO bills, which generally is bringing down the costs of borrowing to the government, and also sort of impacting market rates as well, right? So even though the MPR is sort of an anchor rate, market rates could still tend to be a little bit different.
So from your perspective now, you think it would be a hold or it would be obviously not another hike. I don't think we should even...
Yeah, no, I don't. I think the likelihood of a hike is really low. So we're looking at most likely a hold for now. Or, I mean, at best, maybe some 25 basis point cut.
At best?
At best.
So what does all of this do to the Naira? We've seen stability. I mean, a lot of people have had conversations with this period. They've been quite happy with the certainty of the level of the Naira, not that it's at its best value. But what of all of this, whether it's a 25 basis point, because you're not the first who's suggesting that, cuts, or a hold, and then you also talk about, of course, the stop rates. We've seen the federal government lose some desire to go to the market. Some people say maybe they're waiting for the final quarter to do the last bid. But all of this, what does it do to the Naira and the sentiment, you know, around Nigeria's economy and investment?
Yeah, so higher rates attracts foreign investors, attracts FPI flows, and that brings in dollars. So that helps to stabilize the Naira.
But that also costs the government more.
Yeah, by
servicing
yes, by lending at higher
securities.
rates. But that's what I've said, that's why it's been interesting to see that the government has actually been reducing like the Treasury bill and OMO rates a little bit. So and still we're still seeing interest from investors. So it's so you know, that could also be, you know, one of the things that they would look at to say, okay, you know what, there might be credibility for us to actually bring down the reference MPR rate as well. Because even though they have reduced Treasury bill stop rates, moderating it from what it was earlier in the year, we have still seen investor interest. And even in the equities market, we've also still seen FPI inflows coming in. So the policies that have been taken towards the stabilization of the Naira seem to be yielding fruit.
So I like to settle a bit on the equities because it's been really interesting. We've been on a run, and some people are getting scared. I hope this is not a bubble that is going to burst.
About to burst it out.
Yeah, what's really the attraction here? Is it the reforms? Is it what is it?
So I think it's a couple of things. One, the stability of the Naira has, you know, improved flows. So we have seen increased flows into the market. And I think, and the stability of the Naira as well has caused quite a lot of companies to rebound in their fundamental performance, particularly in the consumer goods sector, you know, and the like. So, so a lot of people have been picking up these names, picking up interest in these names. And also too, we can't ignore the global, what's happening in the global space with what's happening with Donald Trump. There's a huge level of capital outflows out of the U.S. Into Europe and into other emerging markets. So, yeah, that's part of the reasons why we've seen, you know, this sort of bull run in the equities market. So
you think some outflows from the U.S. is ending up in Nigeria's equity markets? Oh,
yes, certainly.
Do you have data to support that?
Yeah, of course. If you look at FPI inflows or net flows over the past, you know, 2 months, we saw declines at the beginning of the year, net outflows at the beginning of the year, and in May we saw a massive surge in inflow. So there was a net inflow from FPIs in May. We're yet to see June figures, but we would most likely see that trend sort of continued into June.
But when we have a lot of FPIs in the domestic market, it's kind of scary because, you know, the FPIs,
they can go.
Yeah, and then that causes another problem, you know, for investors in the country. But I guess we should make the most of it.
Exactly.
Once it's there. Then, you know, talking about the MPC and the issue of inflation, about the core inflation and the food inflation, even though the headline inflation, you know, I don't think we can lose sight of those because it could just, you know, come and hit us. But that's more for the fiscal authority.
Exactly, yeah, and that's why I think the MPC may be quite cautious. Because in June, we did see an uptick in food inflation month on month. So there was a decline in May, and then in June there was sort of an uptick, and, you know, seasonal. We're looking at maybe seasonal. And core inflation has sort of remained a bit sticky, around 22.2. So you know, given that, you know, we might want to be cautious about the flow of inflation. Even though we have seen some month-on-month sort of reduction, that may easily reverse. That maybe have been short-term. So I think it may be cautious, or to stay on the side of caution. It may be worth monitoring for a while, and that may be the way the MPC may look at it.
Now, how much more do you think we could hold, or do we wait until we see a drop in, especially food inflation, because we know it's a major driver? Yeah,
food inflation is actually quite a sticky problem because it's also driven by insecurity, which is kind of out of the hands of
the monetary authorities.
The monetary authorities. So, unfortunately, it is a sticky one. But I think the reduction that we saw in May, April and May actually, in terms of food inflation was quite encouraging. And I think looking at the security situation, hopefully if things improve, then, to give more confidence.
Yeah, things improve. Also security, we've had some not so good news from the food producing states
exactly.
in recent times.
Yeah.
So that obviously will reflect there. But I mean, Nigeria is not alone in this search for rate cuts. Donald Trump is very, very anxious about it, but it does seem that Jerome Powell can have a little bit of rest, even if it's for a month, because of their inflation also. They saw inflation tick up in the U.S., and so President Trump has given him, okay, his job is not on the line now, but we don't know for how long that is. But everybody actually follows the numbers, right? And back here in Nigeria, we follow the numbers, whether we trust the numbers or not.
Exactly.
All right, thank you so much, Anosi Kimalu, Managing Director of Optimum Global Financial Services, for your time and news.
Thank you very much, Uni. Thank you.
All right, let's take a break. And one issue there is the fiscal authority and their contribution to this, especially when we talk about insecurity. Food is at the core of it. That will be our next conversation here on Business Morning. Please stay with us.